Larry Seruma is the Chief Investment Officer of Nile Capital Management and the Portfolio Manager for the now 4-year-old Nile Pan-Africa Fund, which incidentally was recently recognized by Lipper as the #1 emerging market fund for the past 3-year period. Larry, African stocks have experienced weakness lately. What is your outlook for Africa for the rest of 2014 and longer term?
The investment case for Africa over the long term continues to be robust. Africa, on average, especially Sub-Saharan Africa, is growing at between 5 and 6%. Africa continues to enjoy foreign direct investments in terms of capital inflows. Africa continues to have a lower cost of capital because many countries have better management of their macroeconomic environment. So that is a conducive environment for economic growth going forward. In the short term, we have experienced some weakness, and that has been driven by some of the larger markets that are going to go through a political process. South Africa is having elections this year, and Nigeria is going to have elections next year. So in the interim, you are seeing that investors are a bit concerned about what kind of policies are going to be put in place once those elections are over. So we are seeing some investors express some uncertainty, at least in the short term. But the long-term picture continues to be robust.
Oftentimes, when you think of Africa's stocks, you think of mining and oil. Are there other sectors that investors should watch?
It's an interesting question because if you look at African stock markets, there are very few mining and there are very few oil companies listed on the local markets. In fact, taking an example of oil, most of the oil in Africa is actually run or operated by the big mail majors. And that is companies from Europe, companies from the US, Chevron, Statoil, BP, across the entire continent. There have been very few indigenous oil companies. Now, we are seeing a growth in that sector where we are seeing more and more of these indigenous companies come up in terms of focusing on the oil sector. But on average, across the entire continent, the industry that's most represented on stock markets is the financial sector. So oil is a very, very small part of that. So with respect to mining and with respect to other commodities, yes, Africa strategically holds 40% of strategic minerals globally. It's a big part of the wealth of the continent. But again, we are seeing very few companies that focus on this. Our view is that the growth of Africa is driven by the consumer. The consumer growth is really where the opportunity lies for many investors looking to invest on the African continent.
What are the primary growth drivers, and do you see that being sustainable long term?
Right. The real growth driver is the rise in the consumer. As many countries across the African continent enjoy political stability, you are seeing that they are having sustainable GDP growth, and that has led to more income. And as many countries rise in the income spectrum, they are consuming more. As a result, you are seeing sustainable GDP growth going forward. So in addition to that, what has happened over the last 20 years, there has been a transition or a transformation in commodity prices. For example, if I look at oil prices, before 2000, the average barrel of crude oil was $20. From 2000 to now, the average barrel of crude oil is about $70. So, and this is so similar to many other commodities. So you are finding that the commodity exporting countries in Africa have been enjoying higher revenue as a result of an increase in oil prices. The other long-term driver for Africa has been the growth of China. China continues to invest significantly in Africa. China continues to demand most of African resources, and they have been willing to invest to make sure they guarantee the supply. So as a result, we are saying that some of the drivers for long-term growth continue to be robust going forward.
Thank you, Larry. And thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. I'm Cherella Cox in New York, and stay tuned for more videos with Larry.